Welcome, Drink with James, episode 110. I don't know if we talked about it in the last episode, but we've finally gotten some reasonable glassware. Y'all know I'm a big glassware snob. We had Baccarat before, but they broke. These are like knockoff Baccarat glasses from Crate & Barrel, I think, which actually make a decent whiskey glass for pretty cheap. So if you need a rocks glass under $20, Crate & Barrel is a good option, which is literally the only time you will ever hear the phrase Crate & Barrel is a good option come out of my mouth, but it is true. So happy to have real glassware, happy to be back with y'all, happy to be drinking whiskey again and not coffee as I was in Monday's episode. Well, not every episode is Monday's episode, last Monday's episode. We got a Fohr tonight. We got 160 influencers RSVP'd. Lord willing, they don't all show up because that would be a lot. Fohr is something we do in the office, influencer education event once a month. We're filming it, I believe, for the first time, so we're going to be putting that up. Should be exciting. We're also considering doing some like road shows and maybe doing Fohr in other cities. So these would be almost like micro conferences that we would do in the evening. So let us know what city we should go to. Obviously not LA, for reasons that if you watch this show you should be well aware of. But let us know what city we should go to. Should we come to your city? What is your city? What does it have to offer? How is the cycling? How are the Manhattans? I can't go anywhere where I can't get a good Manhattan. That is one rule. And my second rule is, honestly, it's probably more of a one rule situation. So unfortunately, Bentonville, Arkansas is going to have to come off the list right now. I've been to Bentonville. I've been to the museum there, which is beautiful. Somebody made me in Manhattan there by pouring the used cherry juice out of a cherry receptacle into my whiskey and handing it to me and saying, enjoy your Manhattan. So Bentonville's off the table. Anywhere else, free game. Let me know where we should go. Can't promise that we actually will. If anyone is watching this video and you work at Walmart, I take back everything I said. I love Bentonville. I'll fucking move to Bentonville. Question number one is, should I follow the people that I work with from brands? Short and sweet, yes. If you're working on a project with someone, you should absolutely follow them. A lot of the people that work in influence, and to all my friends out there watching who have followings of over, let's say 75K, this is especially applicable. The people who are putting these programs together love what they do. They love influencer marketing, and by proxy, they probably love influencers. And so this is cool to be able to work with y'all. And following the people at the brands that you work with is such an easy way to make sure that you continue to get deals from them. You know, if they reach out to you and you follow them and they say, hey, how's it been going? I got a project I'd love to talk to you about. And you know they just got a new puppy, then you're like, oh my gosh, been meaning to reach out. That new dog is so cute. Like, let's get on the phone. That is so huge, and it's so easy, and it's right there. I recently had an experience where an influencer that we've worked with quite a few times, I went to DM them and I couldn't because they unfollowed me. And I know I had DM'd them before, so at some point they followed me and they unfollowed me, which I don't really care. My first reaction though was, what the fuck? Like I was like, what, you unfollowed me? Like, are you serious? And I get it, your feeds get full. You don't want to follow everyone in the world. I totally understand it. So here's my hack for you guys, okay? Follow every single brand person that you work with, okay? And then when the project is done, mute their stories, mute their posts, so they're no longer in your feed. And then once a month, go to your settings in Instagram, go to muted accounts, go to every single one of those accounts, like some photos, comment on some photos. If you have a phone call scheduled with that person from that brand, Go to your muted accounts, pull up their account, look through their feed, make sure when you get on that phone, you don't say, what's been going on? And they say, I got married last week. And you didn't know that, now you look like an asshole. So mute the account, go to your settings, go to muted accounts, engage with the posts once a month or so, check those accounts before you reach out or before you talk to them. But don't unfollow the brand people. It's just dumb. It's just dumb because it's just like, I run this company that pays influencers millions and millions of dollars a year. I fucking know you. I pay you money. You were following me. Now you unfollowed me. Well, now I'm petty. I'm unfollowing you, obviously. I'm a normal person. I'm not just gonna take that lying down. The mute button is transformative. Use it, people. It has changed my life. Mute away. I was just telling Tim, I might mute everyone and just have nothing on Instagram, but have everyone still think I follow them. Go in once a month, throw some likes, peace, I'm out. That's my wisdom corner for the day. How soon is too soon to follow someone? There is no too soon. If you want to work with Chanel and you find out who their VP of PR is, follow. Start engaging. Yeah, is that transparent? Of course it is, but who cares? It shows that you want to work with them. It shows that you want to get to know the person. As we said, no matter how large the brand is, the decision comes down to a person or a group of people in a room of who that brand works with. And if you can build a personal relationship with them on Instagram, your chances of getting it, your chances of being able to work with that brand on your feed are so much higher. People are simple beasts. We just want to feel important. That's it. People really just want to feel like other people think that they're great. And you guys have such a powerful tool, especially if you have a big following, because there's a little thrill that you get when someone with a big following follows you, and that is embarrassing in some ways, but it is true. And for all their friends who probably also follow you, when they see that you're commenting on their posts, they're gonna feel so fucking cool and be like, and they won't say this, they're not saying oh my God, I feel so cool because Alyssa in the city commented on my last post. Of course they're not gonna say that, but this is how human psychology works. And if on this brand person's feed, there's 4 big influencers that, all of their friends love and they commented on that post, of course everyone's gonna look at it and be like, oh fuck, that's kind of cool. She's got all those people commenting on her posts. What do I have? A mortgage? Question number 2 is, what are my thoughts on growth companies like Instamust, other growth hacking, growth companies that are said to help grow your following organically? I don't have much of a following. I get these DMs constantly. I cannot stress enough how far you should stay away from these things. Something I remember saying a while back is that you can't hack your way into success. There's no growth hack here that's going to get you to 250,000 followers. And even if you could find a way to get to 250,000 followers using growth companies or using different tactics, that's not going to be an audience that's engaged in what you do. That's not going to be an audience that cares about what you have to say. And thus, to advertisers such as myself, that audience is fucking useless. So you having 30,000 followers who are obsessed with you, or 5,000 followers who are obsessed with you, is better than having 15,000 followers who don't know who the hell you are. I understand the temptation and I understand the frustration of how hard it is to grow in this space right now and how hard it is to grow on Instagram right now. But these companies are selling you snake oil. And again, even if they get your following up 30%, that 30% is going to be essentially meaningless to brands because those people probably aren't going to view your posts. So you're not going to have the reach numbers to support your following. And we are eventually going to move to a model where we are paying on true, real impressions, not your following count. And I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we will essentially start to ignore following counts completely. They will be essentially meaningless to us. The only thing I will care about, and by proxy our hundreds of clients care about, is how many of those people are you actually reaching. So if you're padding your following number, but you're not growing your reach number, then those followers will be meaningless anyway. So I would stay away from them. Keep your nose to the grindstone. Keep working. Be consistent. Take the long-term view. Think about where you want to be a year, 2 years from now, and don't let companies trying to sell you short-term gains throw you off track. Question number 3. Why is there an air of unprofessionalism in the influencer space? First of all, question asker, sounds like you got burned. I'm sorry for your experience. There is a certain amount of unprofessionalism or a lack of professionalism in this space. There's a number of reasons why. I think one of them obviously being that a lot of the younger influencers especially haven't worked in an office environment. I think a lot of the kind of tension comes from between brands and influencers is in the ability to meet and understand expectations. So like as a brand, you might say like, I expect my email to be answered in 24 hours. The influencer doesn't hold that same expectation. So they don't necessarily think they're being flaky. They just don't come from a place, i.e. an office, where answering an email in 24 hours is super important. There are some influencers out there that are hugely professional and they're joys to work with. Mariana Hewitt, Chriselle Lim's team is amazing. She's incredible to work with. Jenny from Margot and Me is great. A lot of the people we've had on the show, Erica, who's old school on the show, Erica Hoyta, Fashion Chic Styling, is fantastic to work with. A lot of influencers are consummate pros. They have full teams around them helping. It feels like working with a mini production, content production studio. They're incredible. But especially in the micro side, there are influencers who are not as professional. That is frustrating. I think that for the influencers watching the show right now, this feels again a little bit more like maybe a question that was asked by a brand. For the influencers, I think we've said this before, but in an early episode, so I'll say it again. If a brand reaches out, I would say 48 hours you should respond. If it's their first time they've reached out and you don't have a relationship with them, try and get back to them in 48 hours. If you're on a trip, put up an out of office so that they know and they don't just feel like you're ignoring them. So you're on a trip, you're not going to check your email, put an out of office. If you're not out of town, try and respond to that in 48 hours. Respond to all your emails. Very easy to say, thanks so much for reaching out. Not interested at the time, but let me know if anything else comes up. Again, we've talked about before how people in this industry move brands so quickly. So if you don't want to work with someone because you don't like the brand and you just don't respond, that person might move from that brand to the brand that is your dream brand. And the simple act of saying, thank you so much for reaching out. Right now, this doesn't make sense, but let me know in the future if any other opportunities come up. It's literal seconds of your time. You can even get these little keyboard shortcuts. If you Google like keyboard shortcut app, you can get these little apps where you can say like Control, SR or something, a random key, and it will automatically paste in something that says, thanks so much for reaching out at this time. We're not interested, but keep me in mind if anything comes up in the future. So like you could just go through your email and do 50 of those at the end of the week or, twice a week or whatever it might be. So respond in 48 hours. If you are working with a brand and they're paying you, you need to respond by end of business. That is a non-negotiable. If a brand is paying you and you're in contract with them, respond by end of day. If you are in negotiation with a brand, I would also say end of day, but I would stretch it to 24 hours. So we'll say, first time a brand reaches out, 48 hours, absolute maximum. If you're in negotiations with a brand, you're going back and forth with them, 24 hours maximum. If you are working with a brand, you should shoot for 2 hours, but absolutely end of day. If you are within a day of your posting time, I think you should be responding within the hour. So those all make sense. Rewind it if you need to. That should be your expectation. The largest amount of fallout is in communication breakdown, and you can get over so much of it just by being disciplined about your response time. And if you don't have an answer for a brand, if they ask you, hey, we need you to reshoot this, and let's say you need to book a photographer to do that, and you're waiting on the photographer to get back to you, so you don't want to go back to the brand and say when you're going to be able to reshoot because you're waiting for the photographer. That's kind of a tongue twister, for the photographer. You're waiting for the photographer. Reach out to the brand at the end of the day and say, hey, don't have an update for you. Just want to let you know I'm still waiting to hear back from the photographer about when we can shoot. I'll let you know tomorrow if I've heard anything. If I don't hear anything back by tomorrow, I'm going to reach out to another photographer. So you just have to keep people in the loop, and even if you have bad news, communicate that bad news as soon as you get it. I used to avoid difficult conversations in my life. I actually read this book called Difficult Conversations, which was really good. But one of the things it talks about is if you have a piece of bad news, to try and communicate that piece of bad news to the person that it's going to affect within 15 minutes of receiving it. Because as you wait, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder to hype yourself up to communicate it. Anyone who's ever broken up with somebody knows this feeling where you're like, I'm doing it today. I'm breaking up with them today. And then you see them and they do something nice and you're like, well, I can't possibly break up with them today. And then the next day you're like, today is the day I'm breaking up with this person today. And then they lose their job and you're like, fuck, now I can't break up with them until they get a new job. Now I'm in this for another month. That stuff just keeps happening. So I have a rule. When I have a piece of bad news, I try and communicate it in 15 minutes. Think about that with brands. If you can't post, if you have to back out of something, if it's going to be late, if the files that you shot got lost, communicate it immediately, explain what happened, apologize. It will be fine. The only way it will not be fine is if you don't communicate effectively. We could do a whole show on this, but if you have any more questions on that, on how as an influencer you should be thinking about communications with brands, ask them, because I don't want to just spurt stuff off here. So any further questions on it, let us know. I'll answer it next week. I think that's it. That's the show. I got to go do a presentation. Cheers.